Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please find your seats if you would. The superintendent of the park, you're going to hear from him later. He took credit for the day's weather, and I'm happy to give that credit to him. So let's start with a round of applause for the weather here. You know, it's always a good day to be at the wall, no matter the weather, whether it's cold, whether it's hot. The wall is different in all seasons, and so I welcome every weather condition we have here on Veterans Day, but it sure is nice to have such a glorious day. Well, first of all, I'm Jim Knotts. I'm the president and CEO of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, and it's my pleasure to be the first to welcome you to our annual Veterans Day observance at the wall. It's always great to see so many of you who are able to be here in person. And I just want to note that we have tens of thousands who will be watching this ceremony online, and I say welcome to you all. You know, Veterans Day is the day that we celebrate all of our nation's veterans, those who made the ultimate sacrifice and those who are still with us. We also recognize those currently serving their nation in uniform. This Veterans Day, we're commemorating the 30th anniversary of the dedication of the Women's Memorial. That's right, you can clap there. It's been a long time coming, 30 whole years. And of course, the Vietnam Women's Memorial honors the more than 10,000 women who served in Vietnam and the 265,000 women who served around the world. We remember the 8 military women whose names are on the wall behind me. When a separate memorial to honor the women's service was first proposed, it would be a bit of an understatement to say that the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund was not in favor of it. I'm happy to say that those attitudes have changed, and today I'm also happy to say that we have a really great working relationship with Diane Carlson-Evans, the advisory group to Eastern National from the Vietnam Women's Memorial, and we're really happy to have that ongoing relationship and be able to have you all do the ceremony today. Earlier this year, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, in conjunction with Diane and her group, officially expanded its maintenance responsibility with the National Park Service to include all 4 components that make up the memorial site: the wall, the 3 servicemen statue, the Vietnam Women's Memorial, and our in-memory plaque. With several maintenance projects already under our belt the last 6 months, we're following through on our commitment to ensure that the contributions of women who served during the Vietnam era will be included as part of the Vietnam veteran story, and the memorial will be maintained to the same high standards. Thank you. And now on to our program. Please welcome Chaplain Linda Pugsley, Vietnam veteran, Air Force flight nurse, and Doctor of Biblical Studies. Chaplain, please lead us in the invocation.
Not everyone here may be on the God page of life, but I ask you to be a good fellow American and stand quietly by with those of us who are while we have a sacred moment. Dear God, hear us now as we ask your hand to be upon us in this tribute to the women who served in Vietnam and during its aftermath. We look to you to heal the wounds within us that we ourselves cannot heal. Bless each one of the courageous women here today who, even though anger and agony may have been their companions, they still press on. Help us to see more clearly and to know there is a future and a hope in you. Let us continue with cool heads and warm hearts to bring the message of the value of our service to this great country. We have been so encouraged and honored these past few days, meeting with old friends. I use old, Lord, with distinction here. Old friends and recalling the brave and robust times of our youth, times when our strength far surpassed our wisdom and our love of comrade and country far surpassed our own understanding. Bless us now, Lord, as we stand with righteous pride celebrating the Vietnam Women's Memorial, the symbol of honor and strength, the symbol of what is right about America, not what is wrong, the symbol of the finest threads of America's cloth. We often gather together with tears and pain, but may we never despair. Help us not to dwell on loss and death, but rather rejoice in the fact that your plan required some of us to walk out of that smoke and fire of a long-ago war. You knew that the truth could not be told except by those who were there. Help us to proudly bear that burden. May we continue to love each other in sweetness and dignity until we look in your face for our final welcome home. We ask your continued protection, wisdom, and justice as we go forth with this solemn occasion. Again, I ask you to bless our warrior woman, Diane Carlson Evans, for her vision and victory in our memorial. Bless all the coordinators, the Park Service, and the many helpers who have been here and worked so hard all this week. And send your choicest favor to the brave women who gave so much to serve so valiantly in Vietnam. With humble hearts we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing or stand as you are able as the all-women Joint Forces Color Guard from the Military District of Washington presents the colors. Color Guard, present the colors. While they're coming forward, please join me in a moment in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vietnam veteran Edie McCoy Meeks, First Lieutenant United States Army and former board member of the Vietnam Women's Memorial. She'll be followed by Master Sergeant Hillary Groby, United States Air Force Band, who will sing the national anthem. Please remain standing until the colors have been retired. Ladies.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Color Guard, retire the colors. Please be seated. Thanks to our color guard, to Ms. Meeks, and also to Sergeant Groby. I appreciate your support of our ceremony today. Now, I would like to introduce today's Mistress of Ceremonies. Sharon Bannister is a Gold Star daughter whose father, Stephen Rush, is remembered on panel 2 West, line 113. She's a recently retired Air Force Major General, a doctor, a National Park Service volunteer here at the Wall, and she also serves on the VVMF Board of Directors. Please welcome Major General Sharon Bannister.
Thank you, Jim, for the kind introduction. You're always more than kind, and thanks for bringing up that actually this is my first Veterans Day as a veteran, so thank you for letting me do this today. Before we begin our formal program, I'd like to recognize all of the Gold Star family members in attendance, the mothers, fathers, wives, husbands, sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, all those who have experienced the loss of a loved one and know all too well the sacrifices of our military families. And finally, to those still waiting for their loved ones to return, please don't give up hope. As we begin our program today, I call your attention to our POW MIA chair, which occupies a place of dignity and honor. Let us always remember and never forget their sacrifices as we continue to work toward the fullest possible accounting of our missing. Since today is Veterans Day, I would like to ask all of our veterans in the audience to stand and be recognized. Today is your day, and on behalf of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund and the Vietnam Women's Memorial, I would like to thank all of you for your service and welcome home. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you. I would like to introduce the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund and Vietnam's Women's Memorial partner in today's ceremony, our National Park Service. Please welcome the Superintendent of the National Mall and Memorial Parks, Jeff Reinbold, to the podium.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for being a volunteer here at the Wall and continuing to serve. Wow. Jim mentioned the weather. You all have the view this way. I got to be honest with you, the view this way is very impressive. This field is filled. The foliage is perfect. Yeah, it's a special day. On behalf of the National Park Service, it is my pleasure to welcome you on this Veterans Day to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial as we mark the 30th anniversary the dedication of the Vietnam Women's Memorial. I'd like to welcome our visitors and distinguished guests, especially all the veterans who just stood, members of our armed forces who are here today. We also have families and friends who have traveled from across the country to pay tribute to their loved ones. I thank you for choosing to be here today. I'd also like to thank our partners in this endeavor, Stacy Magdalena of the Eastern National, which provides the educational programming for the Vietnam Women's Memorial, organized the weekend's commemoration, including last night's candlelight ceremony and the storytelling program, and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, especially its president, Chief Executive Officer Jim Knotts. Those two individuals and the organizations they represent are instrumental in maintaining these memorials and keeping the stories we honor alive. Jim, when you were speaking, I was just thinking 30 years ago, visitation on the National Mall was 4 million people. Today, we're at 36 million. It takes a huge partnership to keep these memorials looking the way they should, with all of that love that we get from people from around the country to make sure they're at the standard that they should be for this country. So thanks to both of you for your work. And it's a special privilege to welcome Diane Carlson Evans, founder of the Vietnam Women's Memorial, President Emeritus of the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation, and to all of those participants and organizers of today's observance, thank you for contributing your time and talents to help us recognize the men and women who served in Vietnam and all our veterans. We in the National Park Service are honored to be entrusted with the Vietnam Veterans Memorial for the past 4 decades and to have welcomed more than 130 million visitors who come here to pay respect, to explore the lessons of the past, and to continue to ask questions about war and loss and survival and sacrifice. And as previously noted, for the past 30 years, that charge has included the care of the Vietnam Women's Memorial, which recognizes the 265,000 women, all volunteers who served in the armed forces during the Vietnam War. I want to acknowledge the National Park Service staff, and you will also see our yellow-clad volunteers who are here maintain this magnificent memorial and help the more than 5.5 million people that come here every year. We are particularly proud that nearly half of our employees and volunteer workforce are veterans of the armed forces. They continue to serve their country wearing the uniforms of the National Park Service. The experience they bring to these sacred sites, their willingness to share the stories and their experiences make people's visits here meaningful. Sacred sites like the Vietnam Women's Memorial and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial promote a spirit of unity and remembrance, and giving all of us a place to recognize those who have served and those who continue to serve our great nation. As we gather on Veterans Day, we're reminded of our common heritage. We show those who served in the military, their families, and our fellow citizens that their sacrifice and their accomplishments will not be forgotten. For far too many years after the troops came home from Vietnam, the role and sacrifices of women during the war went unrecognized. Because of the vision, passion, perseverance of Diane Carlson Evans and her colleagues, we have the memorial whose anniversary we celebrate today. As we mark the 30th anniversary of that dedication, the National Park Service proudly reaffirms our commitment to the pledge made by General Colin Powell at the groundbreaking of this memorial. He said, "When this monument is finished, it will be for all time a testament to a group of American women who made an extraordinary sacrifice at an extraordinary time in our nation's history, the women who went to war in Vietnam." Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Reinbold. As always, you've said very impactful words that always touch us. Our next speaker is Lieutenant Colonel Janice Snark. Janice has a long history with the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, having just retired from years of selfless service to our board of directors. She also has a deep connection to the Vietnam Women's Memorial, having served with the U.S. Army as a member of the Army Nurse Corps. It is my honor to call my friend and Lieutenant Colonel Janice Snark to the podium. Here, you know what? You can have this one. There you go.
I don't know where to put this. Oh, hello. He's right. This view from up here is spectacular. You are so beautiful. 31 years ago today was a pivotal point in my life. It was 1992, and it was the 10th anniversary of the wall. And I did two things I'd never done before. I came alone, and I came in uniform. I'd been here a few times before, but I never wore anything, and I never said anything that would identify me as a Vietnam vet. It was exceedingly easy to be invisible. And that's what I was. I guess that's exactly what I wanted to be, right up until the moment that I didn't want to be that anymore. I said, it's time to come out of your civilian closet and put your uniform back on. And I did. I put on my Class A's. And the Class A's are great. I mean, they tell a very specific story if you know how to read them. And what mine said was, I am a nurse, and yeah, I was there. I am a Vietnam veteran. Words I'd never said before. What my uniform said about me, well, other than I was really good with a pistol. It said that I was a nurse and that I was in Vietnam. And I started walking down the wall, starting from the west, and I saw people doing like double takes. Some of them were doing triple takes. And so, I turned around to see who was behind me, and it was astonishing. I said, people came up to me, they hugged me, they held me, they thanked me. Some just smiled through tears as they tried to speak. They wanted to let me know that they were grateful, that they remembered that we were there for them, that it mattered that we were there, that we cared for them, for their buddies, for their brothers, for their fathers, and for their sons. I was surprised, obviously, by all this recognition. And I was surprised and overwhelmed and touched. And I absolutely got that it wasn't about me personally. Granted, it took me a while to get there, but I finally got it. And at this moment in time, I just represented all the women who had served in so many capacities, so many jobs, so many areas in this war. It was a huge theater. And by now I'm at the apex, and I'm still getting all these wonderful vibes. And I'm okay with it. This is turning into a really good day. Later, I walked over towards where our memorial, the Vietnam Women's Memorial, would be a year from then. Hallowed ground. I noticed just past where the memorial would be, out on the grass, there were a bunch of people I didn't know what they were doing, so I decided to investigate, and I walked over there, and with all the people that were there, what struck me the most was how quiet it was. So I waited to see what they were all looking at. It was a miniature of our memorial. It's about that big around, about that high as far as I can remember. But when I saw it, I was transfixed. The detail, right down to the sandbags. And they were all waiting their turn in silence to be near it, to see it, all the detail, like I said, down to the sandbags. We've had 3 decades now to be at peace with that memorial, and we know every inch of it. But back then, I'm thinking probably half of the women who saw that nurse said, "That looks exactly like me." Of course, now we're saying, "I used to look like that." When I saw that miniature sculpture, I said, this memorial is going to spark as many stories as there are stars in the sky. And they don't stop. They're still coming out, things that we didn't remember, or our friends told us something that we had done or said, which we vehemently denied. You got a witness to that? You got corroboration for that? And then I noticed off to the side, there were 2 women that were just standing there very quietly, just watching. And I looked and I went, "Oh my God, that's Diane Carlson Evans. I have got something to tell her." I walked over to that woman in the Class A's. I put my hand out and I said, thank you for this memorial. I know you know how important it is to have this here to honor the women who served and give them a place to go, because they have never yet said what they did, what they saw, how they felt. This will be a place for that. This memorial will give them their own area where they will realize they're not alone. A lot of us thought we were alone. But now, by virtue of that miracle, thank you, Diane. And I said to this, I said, thank you for envisioning this memorial, for creating it, this project, and seeing it through. Your tenacity is legendary. And she looked up at me and she said, oh, you must think I'm Diane Carlson Evans. And she said, Diane, this is Colonel Nark. Colonel Nark, this is Diane. Diane smiled and put her hand out, and the moment I touched her hand and I looked into her eyes, I lost my ability to speak. I think all I could manage was, I can't look at you. Thank you. Thank you. And I started to cry. So I just turned and walked away, embarrassed down to my bone marrow by that performance. I knew what happened. I mean, I had used up all my words. There was nothing left. I walked again to where our memorial would be, and I thought, oh my God, I can see it. I can visualize, it's right there. It's a miracle. This is the memorial that will reach out to the women veterans of Vietnam and say, we know you. We've been there too. Come on home. And come on home means showing up and coming to peace with our memories of war. And of course, it's never too late to say welcome home. Welcome home, my sisters. Welcome home. There's more paraphernalia every year.
Okay, being MC isn't fun because I just keep crying on stage, but Janice, thank you for touching on so many important points. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker on behalf of the Vietnam Women's Memorial, Colonel Courtney M. Sagai, U.S. Army. Courtney is a reminder of the power of the Vietnam Women's Memorial to welcome current generations of military and civilian women into community through the Memorial Day and Veterans Day storytelling program. It has been our pleasure to have Courtney join us on 3 different occasions to share her story, and it has been our joy to watch her military career unfold. Courtney is the proud niece of Alan Ho, a medic in Vietnam, a former member of the Vietnam Women's Memorial Board, and a member of Eastern National's Advisory Board. Please join me in welcoming Colonel Sagai.
So I'll be the third to confirm the view is amazing from up here. The foliage and then all of the colors right here in front of me. Love the cav hats and cav patches and the red and all the colors. Wonderful. I stand here in the presence of heroes, and I am grateful. I'm grateful for the freedom that was earned by my ancestors, and grateful for the opportunity to challenge myself, to dream, and to achieve. As you look at the faces on the bronze figures of this Vietnam Women's Memorial, they don't have the same facial expressions that you see on other memorials on the National Mall. They're not 30 feet tall. They're not mounted on a horse. They're not standing heroically on top of a pedestal. Their expressions are a combination of compassion, grit, grief, and hope. They seem familiar. They remind me a little bit of my mother, perhaps because the expressions on their faces resembled the ones that my mother had worn as she toiled through life, marriage, and motherhood. But they're dressed in the same army fatigues that I saw in photos of my father, who was a Vietnam veteran. The familiarity is what makes them so extraordinary, so empowering. We're empowered by this memorial to real women who looked ordinary on the outside, but were bolder and braver than they had to be, and stronger than most wanted them to be. I have visited this memorial several times over the course of my Army career. Whether I visited on Veterans Day, Memorial Day, or stopped by while jogging, I'm continually inspired by the Vietnam War Memorial, this wall behind me, and the Vietnam Women's Memorial, because of how it connects me to warriors of the past who paved the way for soldiers like me. It was only recently that I learned about the Decade of Fighting by Diane Carlson Evans and the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation for a place of honor for women Vietnam veterans. Reading about their 10-year journey taught me about a different kind of strength. To lead is to influence people by providing purpose, direction, and motivation. To lead without authority, to earn the trust of skeptics, to influence those with more power, and to persevere after devastating disappointment is a different kind of leadership. It takes empathy and passion that is gained from life experience to lead this way. 25 years ago, I was a cadet who had only recently committed to serving in the Army, and I was empowered by the young woman warriors that this memorial represented. Today, I am a combat veteran of 23 years. I'm inspired by these women's refusal to surrender and grateful for their relentless fight for the honor they deserved. Thank you for raising up those women who came before us, for your courage, for believing in those who have followed you, and for sharing this memorial with us. Your legacy lives in us as we continue to lead soldiers and stand with fellow veterans in the defense of our nation. We salute you.
Thank you, Colonel Sagai. And I must say, you put into words what so many of us that wear the uniform, just wore the uniform, how we feel. So thank you for doing that. Before we introduce our keynote speaker, we have some very special music to share with you this afternoon. The song, "Till the White Dove Flies Alone," was the theme song of the 1993 dedication ceremony of the Vietnam Women's Memorial, and it has been performed at all of the Women's Memorial ceremonies since. Written by Rod McBrien and John Lindy, it'll be performed today by Emmy-nominated actress and singer Kira O'Brien.
holding you, the way I'm holding you, I know I'll never be the same. I'll press your hand against my face and whisper, I love you too, and talk of times and things back home as if I really knew. You are brave beyond your years with the heart of an eagle, yet the soul gentle as a dove. And for the one you wish were here, I'm crying every tear. For tonight, I'll be that one you love. So rest your head, let my body be your pillow. Keeping awake right here will I be. I'll share your pain through fire and rain. For a part of you is now a part of me. But if green pastures turn to autumn and the shepherd calls his own, I'll walk with you through the valley till the white dove flies alone. You are brave beyond your years with the heart of an eagle, yet the soul gentle as a dove. And for the one you wish were here, I'm crying every tear. For tonight, I'll be that one you love. So rest your head, let my body be your pillow. Keeping awake right here will I be. I'll share your pain through fire and rain. For part of you is now a part of me. But if green pastures turn to autumn and the shepherd calls his own, I'll walk with you through the valley till the white dove flies alone. Till the white dove flies alone.
Thank you, Kira. And again, if there's a dry eye in here, there's just no way. You're amazing. Thanks for making our hearts full every single time you sing. Now I will ask Dr. Marcia Gensler-Stevens to come up and introduce our beloved keynote speaker. Dr. Gensler-Stevens has served on the Vietnam Women's Memorial Board of Directors and Advisory Board to Eastern National since before the memorial was even dedicated. She has spearheaded the storytelling activity at the memorial each Memorial Day and Veterans Day to ensure the stories of service, especially women's service, are always heard. Please welcome Dr. Gensler-Stevens to the podium.
That's hard to follow. I just, and Diane said, but at least you don't have to sing. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Diane Carlson Evans, captain in the U.S. Army Nurse Corps. She served in Vietnam from 1968 to 1969, founder and president emeritus of the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation, chair of the Vietnam Women's Memorial Advisory Group for Eastern National. All those things. But I often say, Diane Carlson Evans is my friend. And I'm not alone in believing that. For almost 30 years, I've spent every Memorial Day and Veterans Day at this sacred place. And the most oft-heard question I get is Diane here today? On those rare occasions when Diane is not here, people would give me things, a story, a name, a card, a gift, and I'd stuff it in my pocket, and I'd be bulging by the end. And then I'd mail them all to Diane. Because I know that Diane Carlson Evans is everybody's friend. And what I think she has created, as Janice indicated and others have said, is she helped create a family of us. And we all have a personal story of how we came to know Diane. For some, it was as hoochmate in Vietnam, or board member on the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation, or fellow veteran, or state coordinator, or ally, or advocate, or beloved child, or husband, or grandchild. For me, it started 32 years ago when I read a Parade magazine article about Diane Carlson Evans, this woman who was trying to get something going to recognize women who had served in Vietnam. Having read that article about her honoring military and civilian women with something physical on the National Mall, I was inspired to invite Diane to be the woman of distinction at the National Conference for College Women Student Leaders here in Washington, D.C. On that evening, when she and Jane Carson came, there were 1,000 people in the auditorium, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house, and we were all inspired by her stories of service in Pleiku and the deep commitment and stamina to battle to enshrine all of those women's stories with a memorial. At the end of the evening, I offered to do anything I could to help. And less than a year later, I met Diane when a FedEx truck arrived at a shopping mall just outside of DC with the statue on it. And a few months later, I donned a fluorescent orange hat to serve as a volunteer at the dedication. And then I joined the board, and Diane said, as an educator, you have to figure out how to teach and unleash the stories of the figures immortalized in bronze. So we began storytelling every Memorial Day and Veterans Day for 27 years. So many of you have joined Diane in bravely sharing your stories, and those stories have created a community of care and healing that has transformed so many lives. I know because I have memories of your stories stitched on my heart. Diane's publisher of her incredible book, Healing Wounds, a Vietnam War combat nurse's 10-year fight to win women a place of honor in Washington, D.C., asked me to write a piece about the book prior to its publication. And I quote what I wrote then. Diane Carlson Evans helped to unleash the stories of thousands of women who served in Vietnam era when she bravely walked into her own past. She led the charge for a sacred space to commemorate the courage, healing, and community of this generation of women. As a result of her courageous leadership, the Vietnam Women's Memorial is an icon of healing and hope, not just for those touched by Vietnam, but for those serving in current conflicts and the generations that will follow. I am in awe of how, in claiming her own narrative, she allowed others to believe they could do the same, end quote. I conclude. Diane Carlson Evans is our friend and our inspiration and the keynote speaker of this 30th anniversary celebration. Won't you join me in welcoming our friend?
Thank you, Marcia. Before I begin, I would ask every woman veteran, not just Vietnam, all our women veterans who are here today, and that includes our sisters who served in the civilian arena in support of the armed forces, to please stand if you're able, or raise your hand. Come on, Sharon. Look at this, yay. Yes, you are all my friends, but you're my sister veterans, and I am so proud of you, and that's why I'm standing at this podium today, because of you. Welcome, brother and sister veterans of all eras who are here with us today, and to our visitors. You are all the VIPs today, together on this sacred ground. We are grateful to Maya Lin, designer of our memorial, and grateful to the founders of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund who created this special place for all of us. On this day, on this sacred ground, 30 years ago, I opened up the dedication of the Vietnam Women's Memorial by saying, "And the sun is shining on us." And look what happened today. The same thing. Yes, prayers are answered. And Jim Knotts, I want to thank you because I put Jim in charge of weather and he did a great job. Jim, you get a raise. Back then, a sea of humanity. Thousands of us within the shadow of Abraham Lincoln and the Washington Monument. I'm quite certain they are proud to share this prestigious ground with us heroic women, but I didn't hear any opposition from them. Our statue was a first, the first monument in the history of the United States placed on the National Mall honoring American women's patriotic service. We made history. "10 years of exhausting work for hundreds of us volunteers, all volunteers, before that momentous day. Slowly, we women and our brother veterans came together again. Years following our separation from the war and our separation from each other, all of us going our separate ways. Some of us had grown up on farms and knew about hard work as it never ended until the cows were milked and the calves fed, the fences mended, the hay baled and stacked, day in and day out. That was me. Others came from every walk of life and stayed in our union and stepped up to share their particular skill and whatever money they had in their pocketbooks had on any given day. It all began in 1983 when I envisioned my sister veterans getting the honor they deserved by adding a memorial to them on these grounds. I was so proud of them. They're sitting right in front of me. I was so proud of them that when I shared the idea with my husband, a veteran now retired from 21 years in the military, who has been in lockstep with me on this memorial idea every single day, he said to me, "Who would be against that?" We were both naive, and it's a good thing, or I never would have embarked on a crusade filled with threats and frequent warning signs that this truly was an impossible dream. The journey began smoothly until the adversaries saw we were serious and began fighting us at every step. Mahatma Gandhi said, "First they ignore you," they did. "Then they laugh at you," they did. "Then they fight you," they did. "Then you win." That's our 10-year story. We won. Women, a place of honor here in our nation's capital. People ask me, "Diane, why didn't you just give up?" Well, I wanted to. There were times. The odds were against us. Powerful individuals stepped up in opposition. Newspaper articles disparaged us. One article said, adding a statue of a woman on the grounds of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial would be like adding Elvis Presley to Mount Rushmore. What? What did he just say? Another, that ours was a tacky lawn ornament. One, we didn't deserve a monument on the wall. But that day that I was in our Minneapolis office in the early 1980s, opening mail, I read a letter from a wounded Vietnam veteran. He had signed over his entire disability check to the Vietnam Women's Memorial Project with a note, "You saved my life. I am going to send you all my checks until the memorial is dedicated. Please do not tell my wife." If you were that veteran, I would like to see you after the ceremony. And thank you for all those, and he did. He sent every check, every month. I wonder if he ever did tell his wife. Another day, I opened an envelope with 2 $1 bills in it with a note from a young child. "This is my allowance. I wish it were more. You saved my daddy's life. Thank you." And hundreds of more letters from women veterans, including our sister civilian women who had served in support of the armed forces, the donut dollies, special services, and many, many others. Gold Star families pouring out their hearts, wishing and hoping that we were there for their son, thanking us and asking, what can we do to help? Hundreds more letters poured in from our brother veterans, sharing their stories of how women participated in the war effort, then stepping up to support honoring them. How could we give up? It just wasn't an option. When the American Legion, the Vietnam Veterans of America, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the Disabled American Veterans, the Paralyzed Veterans of America, the Jewish War Veterans, the Military Order of the Purple Heart, and 40 other veteran, civic, and professional organizations all passed resolutions in support of us, we were on our way. These are powerful organizations. Looking back on those 10 years, I remember we never gave up on a patient in Vietnam. We will never give up on honoring and remembering all those in the military who served and sacrificed. We knew how to get a job done. Women didn't have to enter military service. Maybe I would have learned how to play tennis and golf if I hadn't joined the Army. I would have had time. But we stepped up to serve believing we belonged with our brothers in arms and that we belong with them at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. If they belong here, we belong here. We had proven ourselves as one of the most important contingencies of the Vietnam War and that we were in need of healing our wounds. Many memorials followed ours, including the beautiful Military Women's Memorial in Arlington, honoring all military women, past, present, and future. But what has transpired in the last 30 years? The Vietnam Women's Memorial has impacted our healing, instructed historians of women's role during the Vietnam War, changed the imagery and conversations of who serves in the military, and prompted school children at the direction of their teachers to write letters, hundreds of them handed to women veterans on honor flights, bringing joy and smiles to their faces. 30 years since the dedication, we reflect on how extraordinarily those women have contributed since their service during the Vietnam era. They stepped up to fight for comprehensive gender-specific needs of women in vet centers and VA medical centers across the United States. They fought for benefits for service-connected illness or injury. They lobbied for women to be included in research on PTSD and Agent Orange and other toxic exposures. Vietnam women veterans had proven we are not shrinking violets. We paved the way for the next generations and celebrate the advancement of women to their highest aspirations, opening doors for the brave women following us to enter United States service academies. While the sky opened for female aviators, the sea opened for women on ships and on the ground serving in combat arms units. The vision, the dream to honor my sister veterans may have started in 1983 in River Falls, Wisconsin, but sculptor Glenna Goodacre made the dream come true. It is her design, her creation, her love, and her skill that she carved into a bronze memorial for us that brings us together here today. Sadly, Glenna passed in 2020. We miss her, we love her, we honor her. While imagining and developing a design for us for the National Design Competition we, the Vietnam Women's Memorial Project, had sponsored, she didn't know us until she read some stories and found women veterans in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where she sculpted in her studio. One of them was her dentist. She learned that this dentist had been a nurse in Vietnam. Glenna listened to her, absorbed the pain, the experiences of her and other women who came to her. She learned that hospitals, hooches, buildings in Vietnam, and everywhere women were, and men, there were sandbags. Those would provide her base. She knew women served in many roles and differing ranks. She sculpted 3 of them to represent all of us. There is no rank, no identifying signature on the bronze women. The 4th figure, the wounded male soldier, portrays the sacrifice of the Vietnam War. Glenna said, "He will live." Women came to his aid or served in support in so many ways, not only in Vietnam, but Japan, Guam, Philippines, back home in America, and military bases all around the world. I didn't accomplish this monumental effort alone. I guess that's why I have so many friends. I am grateful to all my friends and to all of our allies, and can never thank enough each and every person, so many of you who are here today, who made a difference. In the end, was it worth fighting a second war, the one back here at home? I see the answer every time I visit the Vietnam Women's Memorial or read another letter of gratitude. My sister veterans finally received their tribute and their path to healing. Never underestimate the power that a memorial has in healing the wounds of war, but never underestimate the power of women either. And now a call to action. We pass the torch, leaving our enduring legacies to you, linking the past to the future. One of our greatest champions for our memorial, the late Admiral J. Crow, Jr., United States Navy, former chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, these 30 years ago. Quote from Admiral Crow, who spoke on our dedication day. Perhaps the most enduring aspect of this memorial will be its impact on the future. It says something profound about what vigorous, courageous, and determined individuals can do in time of crisis. What a marvelous example it will be for coming generations of young American women. Hopefully, it will inspire them to dream, to strive, to challenge adversity, and not be intimidated by peril. What a magnificent legacy for the women who served during the Vietnam War to leave to our great republic. This moving monument finally completes the Vietnam Circle by honoring the spirit and achievements of the women who participated in that effort. but more important, it will serve as a shining beacon for future generations of American women. End of quote. Thank you for being here today. Thank you to our friends and supporters at the National Park Service, Eastern National, and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, who made this event possible for us. Thank you to all the women on the program today, the program during the candlelight ceremony last evening, and those who shared their stories with us this morning. Thank you to the Vietnam Veterans of America for sponsoring a beautiful event yesterday honoring women veterans at the Military Women's Memorial in Arlington. We thank our brother veterans united with us in our mission. We are ever grateful to the volunteers with yellow hats who through rain, sleet, or heat show up to be here for the visitors and us veterans who come to this sacred place. Gold Star families, pieces of our hearts, joined those of your loved ones when you couldn't be there with them. We tried our best, a privilege that cannot be measured. Mercifully, they are here with us forever. To my husband, Mike, my hero, for caring for the wounded as a young Army surgeon in the 1970s and later in a VA hospital taking care of the old soldiers, for standing by me through difficult times, to my family, my children, grandchildren, for their unwavering love that sustained me, to all of you here today and across the country who made the dream come true. I express my deep and everlasting gratitude. Finally, if the Vietnam Women's Memorial could talk, those figures would say, "Never forget, I was with you then, and I am with you always." Welcome home, my brother and sister veterans. Thank you, Sharon. Wonderful. Thank you. We did it. Thank you, Jim.
You'll just join me here.
Yep. I'll set this here for now.
That's good.
Out of the way.
Okay, if you'll indulge us here for a minute, we're going to do something a bit unorthodox here. Last year, we celebrated the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the wall behind me. And at that time, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial created a special award. And on the back, it says Lifetime Service Award. And we gave the first of what I hope will be many of these awards for people who have supported the Memorial Fund, who have supported their fellow veterans. Now, in August, I called Diane and I said, "Diane, I wonder if you would be willing to accept this award from us on Veterans Day." And I don't have to tell you why we wanted to recognize her with this award. Everybody else has done that already today. But what is significant is the first thing that Diane said was, "I'd be happy to accept it on behalf of all of the women veterans." So I've asked General Price, my good friend, to help me to confer this award on Diane. General, if you would, please. You can just put it right over her head.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Diane knew that she was going to be receiving this award, and General Price agreed to help me confer this award, but we have another surprise. And that is, I'm going to pull out the same medal, and I'm going to give it to Diane. And in a minute, I'm going to ask her to give this medal to General Price. This is a surprise to him today. Now, for those of you who don't recognize General Price, this is Brigadier General George Price. He is a veteran of the Korean War. He is a veteran of the Vietnam War. And he has been a supporter of the memorial today since before it was dedicated. He was there on Capitol Hill when the debate was taking place, trying to derail the effort to build this memorial, and he was there to support the effort to recognize Vietnam veterans. And we did that with the dedication in 1982. He was there through many of those years that Diane was fighting and wanted to make sure that the women veterans got their recognition as well. He has been to, as far as we can tell, every ceremony that we've actually held in person here at the wall for Memorial Day and Veterans Day. He gives of his time, his talent, his treasure. He is a role model and an educator for young people, and I am happy to call him my friend. General Price.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give me my stick, don't let me lock over.
Yeah.
Do you want to go down
Where'd
this
you
way?
put it?
I'll go with you.
It's behind you. It's behind you.
Do you want to go down that instead of the stairs?
He's looking for his pen. All right. Thank you all. I'll give the program back over to General Bannister.
Now, this is a pleasant surprise. You're the first.
Diane, I'd like to personally thank you for letting me be a part of today. Not having you here at the 30th anniversary was not something that could ever happen. So thank you for everything that you've done. And to Brigadier General Price and to Diane, thank you for letting us share in your special awards today. This was a very special day for all of us. As we begin drawing a close, please welcome back Kira O'Brien to perform I Will Always Remember You, written by Rod McBrien. I'm sorry, Kira Bryan, I'm getting all the Bryans. She's amazing.
You were born in California, New York, and Tennessee. You're every generation's hope of all that we can be. Oh, this land between the oceans is the home that you defend. You're my mother, you're my daughter, my sister, my friend. No one ever had to ask you, it seemed you always knew. Standing up for what you know is right is all that you could do. Not one to look the other way, you chose to serve with pride and dared to cross the boundaries, knowing God was on your side. And I will always remember you, for you remembered me. Always there when I needed you, always there protecting my You taught us strength and courage and the will to never fail, and that throughout every conflict, somehow triumph would prevail. You made your peace with history and stand among the brave. No more the unsung hero, for you our banners wave. And I will always remember you, for you remembered me. Always there when I needed you, always there, protecting my freedom. How could I ever forget you? You always came through for duty, honor, country. I will always remember you. How could I ever forget you? You always came through for duty, honor, country. I will always remember you. I will always remember
Thank you again, Kira. I'm going to go a little off script. I just wanted to thank Secretary McDonough, the Secretary of the VA, for coming today. Thank you for coming and joining us today. I know the veterans care about what you're doing to take care of us. Thank you. Now, allow me to direct your attention to the representatives of several of our nation's leading veteran service organizations. I would ask them and all other wreath layers to please come forward at this time. For many years, these veteran service organizations have joined our tradition of laying wreaths at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in honor of all those who have served and sacrificed. While the wreath layers get into position, I'd like to note that we will commemorate 2 anniversaries next year. 2024 will mark the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the 3 servicemen statue and the 20th anniversary of the dedication of the In Memory plaque. The plaque, of course, was added in 2004 to mark the service of the men and women who served in the Vietnam War and later died as a result of their service. Then in 2025, we will mark the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War and the sacrifices of those whose last names are listed on the wall in front of you. We look forward to having you join us for those special events in the coming years. I remind all Vietnam-era women veterans that we will be taking a group photo at the Vietnam Women's Memorial immediately after this ceremony. I will now read the names of the organizations as they lay their wreaths. While the wreaths are being laid, you will hear bagpiper Chris Jackson playing Amazing Grace. Today's ceremony will close with the playing of taps by Master Sergeant McCabe of the United States Marine Band. If everyone could now please stand as you are able. National Park Service. Vietnam Women's Memorial. Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. American Gold Star Mothers. Gold Star Wives of America. Sons and Daughter in Touch, Gold Star Children of Vietnam. 1st Cavalry Division Association. Paralyzed Veterans of America. 5th Battalion, 7th Cavalry Association. Army Special Forces. Agent Orange Widows and Survivors Awareness Coalition. Disabled American Veterans. Vietnam Veterans Memorial Volunteers. The American Legion. Vietnam Veterans War Commemoration. Jewish War Veterans. Chickasaw Nation Elder Veterans. Verizon Veterans Advisory Board. Veteran of Foreign Wars, Department of Alaska. Vietnam Veterans of America. Honor Flight of Columbus. Associates of Vietnam Veterans of America. National Dusters Quad and Searchlight Association. The Be Good Foundation. Eight o'clock to 9 o'clock PTSD class, Washington, D.C. Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States. 28th Infantry Regiment Association, the Black Lions. Quezon Veterans. U.S. Army Americal Division. Patriots of Valor. AMVETS. Mobile Reverse Force Army Navy. And apologies, that last one wasn't on there, and if I got that wrong, my sincere apologies. And all other organizations that are here with us today. Please remain standing until TAPS has been played. This concludes our ceremony. Thank you for attending today's event. And again, Vietnam-era women veterans, please join us at the Vietnam Women's Memorial for a group photo. Thank you for coming today.